Mike, thank you for joining us from Beyond the Grave. How are we feeling today?
It's tough. I do have COVID right now, mild case, so I know I'm pretty lucky. But I might not sound great here today. Not that I ever sound great, but I'm happy to actually converse with another human being being in isolation right now.
When was the last time you actually talked to a human?
In person, actually, yesterday. So today, as we're recording this, it was my daughter.
Okay.
So I'm divorced. Her mom lives. I just moved to a house a block away from her mom.
Okay.
So on their way to school yesterday, my daughter brought me breakfast. So we were just, it was a door separating us, and she gave me, a banana and 2 strawberries to make a smiley face.
What a breakfast.
A granola bar broken up in 2 to form eyebrows as well. I talked to her yesterday just through the door, and that was nice. It's something,
Please don't tell me it was a Nature Valley bar where it just left crumbs everywhere.
No, it's what we call a Z bar.
What's a Z bar?
Yeah, it's a long story. It's, oh my God, what are they? Not Luna bars. Oh my God.
It's a Cliff Bar. It's a Cliff Bar.
It's not a Cliff Bar.
It's a Cliff Kid bar.
No, that's not the one.
Then why is it showing up on Google?
I know, because Z bar is an actual thing. That's not what we have as Z bars. That my daughter, for the first couple of years of her life, was we had a nanny for when I would travel.
Okay.
And she had a son named Zadok who loved this particular kind of granola bar. And so it was called a Z bar. And so we still call it a Z bar.
Okay.
To the point, that's not what anybody here's here for. You know what I mean?
Yes, but everything's fine. This is
anyways,
fun.
I ate it.
Good. That's the point. We're having fun. This is fun.
It's fun. I'm not sweating at all.
Well, Mike, the primary reason besides talking about Z bars, Z bar, not the total Z bar.
Not the real Z bar.
Not the real Z bar, because fuck Cliff Bars. Was to talk about the men's challenger circuit, but in particular, the Americans on the challenger circuit, because not only did we have some great breakouts this year coming out of the challenger tour, prime example, Jensen Brooksby, but we had a lot of interesting results. And I wanted to bring you on to talk about them because you are obviously the voice of challenger tennis, at least from the United States perspective. And that's how you are known around the circuit. And that's how you make friends.
It's a Larabar, by the way. Larabar.
Larabar. Thank you. See, it only took
now it's there.
5 minutes.
I wanted to make sure. I'm very uncomfortable when you say nice things about me. So therefore, I had to interrupt. Larabar.
That's fine, because I know you and Noah don't like each other, but you do a podcast together because for some fucking reason that works.
Yeah, well, he's actually in town right now. That's the funny part. He's here in Tulsa right now as we speak. I don't know if he's going to stop by at all, but...
Did he tell you he was going to stop by or no?
Yeah, so he has a sponsor who lives here, who flew him out, and we were planning on doing a couple of podcasts this weekend. I think we're going to still try to do one. Raining, as you can see.
Perfect.
Raining right now, but we're going to try to do one outside at about a 15-foot distance this weekend. But so
who can we expect before we get into it? Who's your next guest that we should expect, or is that secret?
I don't know. We won't have one this week just because the technical challenges of we have to do it outside. It'll just be too much. So
it's too much.
This one will be us, but that's up to Noah right now. I'm letting him grab some guests.
Okay, good enough. So, I like that. So let's get straight into the first player that I wanted to talk about today, Ty.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Ty for a second, because Ty had a pretty good season, in my opinion, even though he's in the low, he's about to crack the top 200. He's not that far out. But how do you think Ty did?
I think Ty would tell you he was not happy with the season. And I don't want to speak for him because he speaks for himself well and enough. I said on our broadcast multiple times, I think he was a guy who maybe at the challenger level, if you will, one of the guys who was most impacted by last year's COVID shutdown. It just won the title right beforehand, and was playing with a lot of confidence. For him, the question has always been about the mental side, much more so than the physical side. His capability with what he can do on a court is always there. But he'll be the first to tell you he struggles with the mindset more than anything. So I think, listen, for him to, I'm flipping through Tennis Abstract right here, and I see, quarterfinal.
He's
and
had
25 quarterfinal.
4?
Yeah, but no semifinals, right?
Yeah.
And that for him is I think he would say that that's disappointing. He's capable of so much more and has the weaponry that will allow him to be there. I think for him, more than anything, I think this is going to be kind of an off season of resetting, and hopefully for him, just getting the mindset into the right frame of mind to be a little bit more positive on the court. He has an enormous capacity with his physical talents, and I know his friends all say the same thing. Philip, that they know he's capable of it, and I think it's just going to be a matter. I think this is going to be a big year for him. I think we're going to see, actually, in terms of like a big picture, and I think Ty is a good example, where you have a lot of players who have kind of just, maybe through this last year and a half, 2 years, everything that's happened, have kind of just continued playing because there's not a lot of other opportunities and options. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, I need to try to play. I need to try to play. But now if 2022 is back to normal in some way, shape, or form, right? Like, this could be kind of a pivotal year for a lot of players who say, all right, I'm giving it one full blast, one full go. And I think Ty might be one of those players.
Really?
I think a lot's been made. Ty had plenty of options coming out of college to go into the financial world and just make a crap ton of money. And I tend to think that 2022 for him is going to be kind of one of those make or breaks years. I think he's going to give it like as much as he can, that mental side. If he can solve that, I think everybody knows he's capable of a lot. I expect a lot out of him this coming year. And I think he's capable of winning multiple challengers and getting to that next level. But, it's going to be up to him to kind of make that next jump.
Would you call it a make or break situation next year? The way you're describing it makes me think. Nice cat, by the way.
Sorry, this is Sewer Cat, the infamous Sewer Cat.
Love it. Would you describe it as a make or break year? The way you're saying it makes me think he's going to give it one final push, and then nothing happens.
I don't want to overstep my bounds and say that that's what it is for him. I think that that's kind of the case for a lot of players, to be perfectly honest with you. I think you're going to see a lot of players who have just kind of just gone through the last 2 years kind of because they don't know what else to do. Yeah. If they're able to have a normal year where it's a normal schedule and you kind of plot out things and things don't go well, then maybe you're going to see a little bit more of just like guys saying, you know what, I gave it a shot. I gave it an opportunity. I mean, listen, you're at this stage, right, where you have a lot of players who are in this 24, 25, 26-year-old range, not just the Americans, but a lot of guys who just, over the last couple of years, this is when you should be coming into your prime and making that jump. It's been so hard for players to make jumps because of all the rankings changes and all the adjustments that they've had to make because of COVID. Yeah. And I think you're going to see people just be like, okay, well, now we're past that. I have this year to make a jump or else. I know there are, Christopher Eubanks and Bjorn Fertangelo are two guys I know you wanted to bring up here, but two guys who had really strong 2021s, right? But because of the COVID rankings, they're not where they probably should be in the official rankings, right? Yes,
because it's all blocked.
Liam Brody's a great example of a guy who should have been in the top 100 this year, was inside the top 100 in the race up until maybe the last couple of weeks. So I think there are a lot of players who are going to say, okay, we're past that this year in 2022. Let's see what it looks like in terms of what I'm able to do and where I'm able to get. Yeah. Or not anymore.
Oh, absolutely. And kind of piggybacking off of what you just said with Bjorn and Chris, let's go to Bjorn first, because Bjorn I don't want to say is an anomaly, but Bjorn, for some reason, I thought was in his 30s, but he's 28 years old. I don't want to disrespect him in any way, sense of the form, but Bjorn actually had a decent year this year.
He did. It's been so hard for him physically over the last couple of years, and then obviously COVID as well for him. But the foot injury was such a problem for him that he wasn't able to get that full push back in 20. When was it that he had the full foot? 2019 was when he had the foot issue, right? And so then coming back after COVID and wasn't really a big push for him because of the fact that obviously everything just kind of stopped. So you look at his 2020 season and he played, I'm looking here, he played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 events total.
Yeah. That's nothing.
So right, exactly. So it's a, complete wash of a year for him. And I just don't know that I think he has that high level of expectation for himself as well. He's been right at that. It seemed like for 3 straight years, he was right at that 110, 120 cutoff as we were approaching the year-end situation, as my cat is now adjusting my camera for me.
I was wondering what was happening.
But he's been so close at so many times, and I think Bjorn might be another one of these guys who just says, all right, I've got one good push in me here in 2022. Because I think Bjorn's been pretty upfront and open about he doesn't want to be a guy that's playing at 33 at the challenger level, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's great run for him in Cary, a really good run for him in Knoxville as well to kind of end his year. He ended it with a semifinal there, and I mean,
he lost to Chris, right?
Wins. Yeah, exactly. He's had some really strong wins through 2021. The final in Tallahassee, losing to Brooksby.
Beating Brooksby in Cleveland too.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is a guy who is capable of a lot, and I think he's going to take into account, the scheduling, the fact that he has been through a lot over the last couple of years. I think he is kind of at that point where he's like, okay, I've got it kind of figured out what I want to do. Now I'm going to implement it and have a good 2022 if he can stay healthy.
Well, he lost in 2 finals, 1 and 1, actually beat Brooksby, and then lost to him. Lost to was it Kruger in the final of
in
one
Cary?
of them? And Cary, the second Cary, I should say.
Right. Yeah.
Semifinals, finished that challenger year with that result, which is a good one. And he qualified for the French Open, which is really hard to do nowadays. And for him to kind of go through some, I would say, decent results, basically winning 2 out of the 3 in straight sets, and then loses to Cam Norrie in the first round. But we all saw what Cam Norrie did this year, and that's just unbelievable.
Right.
So,
and on top of it, he qualified in Miami, beating Verdasco as well there. Tough draw in the U.S. Open qualies, getting Kokonakis, who's obviously capable of a lot himself.
Yes.
I think I have a strong feeling about Bjorn as well. I think it's just going to be a big push. He does have a lot of points to defend, but I think if he stays healthy, he's capable of quite a bit.
100%. Now, from Bjorn, we go to Chris Eubanks. Where do you want to start with him?
Where do you start with Chris?
Besides joining your Twitch stream in Illinois.
Yeah. Chris is a. No, I'll say this. He and Noah are very close, and as a result, Chris has been very kind. I think I can say Chris has been very kind to me. He and his coach Philip Gresk, especially with Noah being gone with his own injuries and stuff over the last year, they've been very kind to make sure they invite me to dinners and things like that along the way. Just so that I don't feel alone out there, because it's been such a difficult year for all of us when we travel. Players, media, everybody just kind of struggling with that. So I consider Chris a friend. Okay. Chris is such a unique guy because I think he has these, he's so streaky about it, right? He can have these, the way he plays, he can have these great deep runs, but I think he needs matches to get himself to that top level. finishing with a title in Knoxville, winning a title in Orlando as well in the middle of the year, and kind of getting to this better understanding of who he is as a player in terms of see ball, hit ball.
Yeah.
And being, I think he still has, actually, of the guys we've talked about, I think Chris still has the biggest jump capable in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
I think he still has some big work to do in terms of being a better second ball striker.
Yeah.
And having that mentality of being a better second ball striker. He should be looking for the serve +1 more and more than he does. I watched, he beat Stefan Kozlov in the final round of qualifying in Indian Wells, and I was able to sit courtside, no commentary, no working, just sit and watch.
Just watch it. And that's
just watching, which is rare for me, right?
And it was a very weird result too, I must say. Like 2-6, 6-love, 7-5.
Kozlov served for it too. And frankly, considering how well Kozlov played down the stretch of the year this year, it was a weird result that he wasn't able to get over the finish line. He stumbled.
And we'll talk about him after.
Moments. Yeah. But I watched Chris, and I was on one of the baselines. And so many times Chris serves, and his first 2 steps are back. Yeah. And I think it's one thing if you're a guy who maybe doesn't have the biggest serve, right? Yeah. But Chris is so, it's still that look to hit that second ball with authority. He's still capable of doing it from where he is 2 feet behind the baseline. But I think that mentality switch for him is still a work in progress. And I think he actually, of the guys we've talked about, he has that capability to make a really big jump still. Looking for that ability to hit that second ball from 2 feet inside the baseline instead of 2 feet behind it. And on top of it, the volley skills are still bad. So he still has that capability of being much, much better there as well. So
at least you're honest about it.
Yeah. I mean, he was a late bloomer, right? And so I think there's still like that ability for him to be way better than he is right now. And he had a great, second half of 2021. So I think he could make a massive jump. If
you continue to talk like this, I feel like for me, the prediction for next year, if we have that quote unquote normal year, I definitely could see him going top 80.
I think that's entirely possible.
Because he's not that, where is he in the rankings right now? He
160.
Is 160. So he can definitely do it. I definitely think
nothing really to defend the first half of the year.
Perfect.
So he has up until June, he can still continue to make a big jump. So I think scheduling is going to be important for him. I think he's going to stay away from the clay in April. So I think that's going to be interesting where he picks tournaments to play in that April-May swing. Because I don't think there's any point in him playing on clay right now. So I think if he's smart with his scheduling and takes care of business, and he hasn't had any injury issues whatsoever, and if he's able to continue that, I mean, I think what I'm saying so far, Philip, is there's just a lot of guys who have this is such a weird thing, because I feel like I'm going to say everybody has this capability of big 2022, but I think that's kind of the thing, is everybody's approaching it right now is like, okay, this is the year after what's been a shitty last 2 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, we also have to take into account that no one's had a normal year in the last 2 years, which I think is valid for you saying that all of them still have this kind of ability to grow even more and at a faster pace, especially next year once we get, again, quote unquote, back to normal, because he beat the young Colombian Nicolas Mejia in the final of Orlando, the second Orlando. He even beat Nicholas Jarry, who's been honestly on a good comeback too. Good. He won a challenger this year as well on the clay after his doping ban, I believe.
Yes, correct.
And then U.S. Open won all through qualifying, beat Sebastian Baez, which is one of the biggest stars in terms of young talent on tour right now. And then he made the qualifying for Indian Wells. Like, he has so much, and this was the first time he won 2 titles in a year. This was a 3rd overall 2 in 1 year, which
Correct.
is, I think, a huge confidence boost for him as well.
I completely agree. And again, I think he's continuing to come into an understanding of what makes him very good. And that's really that understanding of what makes you your best version of you to get to that understanding is a big, big deal.
100%. I totally agree. For the United States to have this much talent within the top 300, and yet we don't have a guy that's come close to winning a Grand Slam, still baffles me. But that's just a different conversation entirely.
Depth is really good right now with American tennis. Depth is really, really good.
Because the way Kozlov plays this year, Maxime Cressy, 112 in the world right now, 24 years old, has really adapted his game to a level that people didn't see at the beginning of his career.
Yes.
And that's not because of just his serve, but his overall ground stroke game has become a weapon. And I think everyone should get on this train of Maxime Cressy breaking the top 100 next year immediately.
Immediately. Let me look at what he's defending at the beginning of the year. Yeah, not much at the beginning of the year, huh?
Yeah,
nothing. Actually, nothing at all. This is Audrey the cat. Hello.
The other one.
The other one. Get out of
Goodbye.
Here. I think it was Austin Rapp, who was a teammate of Max's at UCLA, who said to me on Twitter that you've got dogs now. I mean, we're getting everything.
I don't know why my dog's freaking out, but I don't want to get up and look.
But Austin Rapp said to me he thinks it's one of the, if not the best improvement he's ever seen in the sport of tennis. I mean, this is a guy who was the bottom of the lineup early in his career at UCLA, right? Because he couldn't make ground strokes. Even a couple of years ago, players knew that if they could just keep him at the ground stroke for 1 or 2 shots, point was done. Now he has solidified that, right? And again, now he is so potent with that first volley. I got to watch him in Indian Wells playing a couple of events. Yes. He beat Quaco and then Laszlo Gere in the first round, and then I think he served for it against Schwartzman, if memory serves. I think he served
5-4.
5-4. I think that's right.
Yeah.
And I watched the majority of that third set, and like he's never been short in terms of confidence.
Yes.
Whereas there are a lot of players who struggle with that mentality. He has never struggled with that. I've talked about this before, but he was here in Tulsa playing the Futures. He won this Futures in 2019, and I was doing some media stuff, some PR for the tournament. And I gave him a ride back to the hotel one day, and I'm just like, I don't really know you, and just what are your goals? I mean, what's your plan, big picture? And he said, I visualized myself winning Wimbledon. I visualized myself winning Grand Slams. And like at first I thought it was kind of like a tongue-in-cheek kind of a comment, but he's dead serious. He always has this mentality of, he said, I'm confident I'm going to win a challenger in both singles and doubles because I see it in my brain. I see it in my head. And he said to me, I mean, this was 3 years ago, and he's just like, I see myself winning Wimbledon. Full confidence in himself and full belief. And now, I mean, again, it's taken some time for the skills to catch up, as is often the case with some of the bigger servers. Yeah. Right. It takes time for you to get to that point where you're managing it perfectly. Yeah. And I think he still has work to do. I still, it's funny, we're talking about American tennis players and he is still representing the U.S., but I don't think any of the U.S., most of the American players would say that he's an American at all. We don't see him very often. Yeah. And he's such an odd character. He's just kind of much like Jensen Brooksby in that he's kind of in his own little world and
his own bubble.
And okay with that.
Yeah.
And totally fine with that. He has made huge strides and has to be complimented on just that incredible belief in himself and the work that he has put in to get to where he is. But I agree with you, Philip. He should be top 100 within a couple months.
When I first saw him, and I met him for the first time in 2019 when he won that Cleveland Challenger, and seeing the difference of him just being good indoors, because that was
Yeah.
the original thing. That was the original thing
Right.
when he came onto the scene and he won that challenge. Everyone's like, whoa, he must be really good. But then you talk to every player and they're going, nah, it's just the indoor conditions. He has a good,
Right.
he has a big serve. He comes to net. You hit 3 ground strokes to his backhand and he's screwed. But
Correct.
he's beating guys now outdoors in this heat,
Yep.
in this condition. And currently he's on a tear on the back half of this year.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this is part of the back half of the year, though, is just about motivation.
Yeah.
Is about the mental side. I mean, I have worked the Champagne Challenger back to like 2001, literally 20 years. So I've seen just some of the best players in the world just fold in the last couple of weeks of the season because they don't give a shit.
Yeah.
That's never an issue for Maxime Cressy. So it wasn't a surprise to me at all to see him. I mean, going through after Indian Wells, he goes semifinal, final, quarter. He had a quarter and a first round mixed in there.
And then a final.
And then
that
a
he
final
won.
and a quarter. Yeah, that he won, right.
That he won.
So, I mean, it's incredible October through December. Because again, he's always at that level. There's never any real drop off. Compliment to him at the highest level.
It's just funny to see how he goes to beat guys that are in the top 100. Like he beat Carreño Busta in the first round of the U.S. Open in 5 sets.
Right.
And then he takes, and we'll say Basilashvili, like to a decent 3-setter. Like he has the ability no matter what to go deep. And I think next year, once he finds that rhythm and developing his game, and I think this back half is really going to give him confidence. Yet I don't know when he's going to have downtime. Like
that's a very good question. Just whether, I mean, he's going to be at his best on certain conditions. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. But I think he's adapting, and I think he's made some massive strides, like we said, and just the confidence. He'll be fine this first half of the year, but he's not going to be he's going to be a very difficult out in so many different tournaments that he's just going to be one of those guys that you have to bring it to be able to get through him.
Yeah, and it's not like, oh, he's a decent American. Like when we first saw some of these guys on tour, like always good, but he's not there yet. Kind of before Mackie hit it, before Korda hit it, before Fritz and maybe Opelka hit their stride, which we saw this past year. Like, this is one of the guys where you're like, oh, maybe it's a decent round. No, it's not. This guy's going to literally hit a ball at your face and go, all right, let's see what you got.
Yep. He's going to bring it to you every single time, and that's a really tough thing to contend with. You're going to have to return and hit your second ball incredibly well over and over and over again.
100%. And I think the last person we have to talk about is Kozlov because, oh my God, he went pro in 2013.
Yep.
And he's 23.
Yep.
I forget that every single time I look at his profile. It's the weirdest shit.
You think about his peak ranking was 4.5 years ago.
In 2017 he was 115, but he's almost back there. But it only took him fucking 5 years. Yeah, well,
he went through so much. And we did a podcast with him. And I think last spring, where we really kind of got him to get into some depth about some of the stuff that he dealt with in terms of just the mental side and just wanting to get away from the sport entirely. Got his ranking down to 500. Mm-hmm. I think he was one of these guys who I think he would say that he struggled to adapt to how he wins matches at the highest level. He was able to do so much with his hands and his brain at the junior level, right? And I've compared him a lot to Donald Young. Okay. In terms of like that, when you're at the junior and you're, everybody knows that you're able to do so many different things. Mm-hmm. Like it's a very difficult thing as a junior to consistently bring it against Stefan Kozlov, his ability to redirect, move you. That's a really challenging thing. And you're able to do that to an extent when you get to, let's just say, the challenger level and above, right? You're able to do that an extent and certainly have good periods, good matches. And we saw that from Koz. He had a quarterfinal on the grass in Hertogenbosch, I believe, back in 2016, 2017, somewhere in that range. The breakout performance was the final where he lost to Query in Sacramento a couple years ago, that challenger. What I think was the hardest thing for him, though, is once things kind of went bad and he wasn't able to dominate matches anymore, I think he would say he let himself kind of get out of shape. But now what I think I noticed the most was he's hitting the forehand again. Yeah. Like it's one thing to just try and use your hands and just kind of move people and redirect and stuff like that. That's fine. But you also have to have that ability to finish. And now he's getting back to that point where all of a sudden he's changed the forehand, right? It's adapted. He's changed it a bit, changed the swing itself. So he's hitting it. And now he's got that weapon again, serving a little bit better as well, hitting his spots really well at a very high percentage. Yeah. And the way he's able to think on a court has always been elite. He is, he's very intelligent about how he organizes himself, how he organizes matches, how he organizes what he wants to do within a match and adjustments. It was fun to watch at the end of last year, seeing the runs that he made. I did those 3 straight indoor events in Charlottesville, Knoxville, and then Champaign, seeing him win in Charlottesville and Champaign to win the wild card. I mean, the way he dismantled JJ Wolf in the 2 semifinals was just like, holy shit, man. Like how? It was funny because I talked to him after the Wolf match. We didn't do it on air. But he asked me what I thought, and I said, you took him out of his comfortable spots. Yeah. It made it look like JJ had a bad day. And maybe he did, right? Like maybe you could argue that, but it's so much about Kozlov's ability to get you uncomfortable. Yeah. And that was what ultimately made him so strong when he was a junior too, because he made kids at that level so uncomfortable. And now he's back to being able to do it at this level. I'm excited to see how he handles the pressure of being back at that next level. He's got a lot of supporters and friends who have already made it. He talked to me at length about how Francis Tiafoe is one of those guys who's been with him since day one. His relationship with Nick Kyrgios has been documented as well. And on top of it, frankly, Philip, he's angry. Like, this is like mad cause. He wants to prove himself, right? There's that component of him saying, I want to show that I belong here. Yeah. And a motivated Kozlov is, Jesus, that's a tough thing to beat. So I think it's going to be a fun watch for me, because I think we're going to see him play at some of the highest levels after starting last year playing so many of the like M15s and M25s and things like that. To see him now getting those opportunities to play at the highest level with the anger and wanting to prove himself. Yeah. It'll be fun, because he is a fun watch. Yeah. He does things so differently than so many other people. It makes him a fun watch.
It just surprises me, because in going back to January when Del Rey loses to Donald Young in 3, then you go to Acapulco, he qualifies, loses to Nori in straights.
Qualifies by beating Bodic, by the way.
I know. Well, he retired.
I know, but still.
Yes.
He won the first set, all right?
Yes, the cult favorite Botic. I love that guy. Don't mind me, my light just crashed, and to my left, that's awesome. Thank you for turning off. We're all good. And then I think it was either the first Carey and Lexington that everything picked up.
It was the first one, the first Carey, where I texted, I can't remember who I texted. I think it was, you remember Joey Hopf, the tennis nerds, longtime Twitter legend from a few years ago. Yes. I was texting with him. It was the match against Eubanks, and I said, I think he's here. It wasn't quite there, because frankly, he wasn't in good enough shape yet to be at that level. But it was just like, okay, this is different than the last couple of years. So it was that stretch where he went final in an M15 in Florida, and then Kerry a couple of weeks later, semifinal in Lexington.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if he can get to that point where he's back in shape and starting to able to do this again.
Well, then he got the, was it a wild card into qualifying or did he qualify?
Yeah, wild card into qualifying for the Open.
And he lost that in 3.
Yeah.
Goes first round, and actually retired in the second carry.
Correct.
And then, and it's funny because I'm looking at all the people that he beat and then looking at the next one that he won, and it's almost the exact same lineup. Yeah. Because he beats Kruger, Torp, JJ, Purcell, and Purcell was actually decent this year as well.
You also skipped over Jason Kubler, who was having a very solid run as well.
Thank you. I apologize. Sorry, Jason. He would never listen to this. I apologize. No. Thanks, man. Beats Kovacevic again. He beat him, 3 times? Or twice? No, I'm thinking of Vukic.
You're thinking of Vukic. You're mixing up all the Illinois people. I get it. He beat me twice, too.
Exactly. So, but he beats Vukic 3 times in 3 weeks. And 2 of them were in finals. And he absolutely destroyed him in Charlottesville, destroys JJ and goes 3. So it kind of flipped at the end.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, where the hell has this been?
Jason Kubler said to me, he beat Kubler twice.
Yes.
Once was in Columbus, and then the second was in Charlottesville. And the Charlottesville score line was 3-1. And Jason came up to me right after the match with a smile on his face. And he's just like, I don't think I played bad. And I was like, I actually said to him, I said, you're right. Maybe a couple of things, if they go your way in the first set, maybe it changes, but you didn't play bad. It wasn't it didn't feel over until it was like 5-1 in the second set. And that was the thing. Seeing Kozlov start to do that again, it was just like, well, we've got Kozlov back from 2016. He's back from the dead. So we're happy to see it.
And to kind of put a bow on it, do we think I know we hope that he'll continue this run.
Yeah.
But what would be the biggest factor for him to stop this momentum? What would be the biggest factor?
I think his body.
Okay.
I think I really do think it's going to be his body is the first question, and then how he holds up mentally. It's the way he lost the match to Aiden McHugh, which was the round of 16. Mm-hmm. So he went like Columbus title, Indian Wells, Vegas final, Charlottesville title, and then immediately into Knoxville and lost to Aiden McHugh, and his body was dead. He had a couple retirements during the year as well.
3, I think.
I think that's right. Yeah. So he's not. Anytime you have a player who's 6 foot and under, that's always part of the mix, right? It's just can their body hold up to time after time after time. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to be pretty crucial for him to be very intelligent about his schedule, so he doesn't play consecutive weeks all the time. Mm-hmm. And then that's number 1 physically. Yeah. Number 2 is he has to play on edge. For him to be at his best, he has to be on this edge of being an asshole on the court, right? Where he needs to get himself motivated and engaged and active. Yeah. That can be a very fine line to manage because it also takes away from your ability to be physically at 100% all the time. Yeah. Because you're using so much of that energy to be on that mental side. Mm-hmm. So I think it'll be interesting for me to see how he adapts with that, because you can only do that for so long before you run out of gas. The McHugh match was all over the place mentally. Mm-hmm. So I think those are the 2 really big things, because I think there might be a physical cap on, like what we saw from him down the stretch was probably, maybe what he's most capable of in terms of just talent-wise, which is probably, is a very, very, very high level. We might have seen kind of where that max level is, maybe. So it's going to be interesting to me to see how he adapts so that he's not exhausting himself mentally, because that's where he can make that next jump for him, is the ability to stay on edge without it taking away from his physical performance.
Okay. He won Columbus doubles too. I just saw that.
Really?
Yeah, he did. Who was his partner? I don't even know. It doesn't even say. Good job, ATP website. And made the finals at carry for doubles as well. Like, it just shocks me going from my own personal experience of seeing him and understanding his background to then today. You know what I mean?
In what way?
I think it's because you heard about him so early on, and then all of a sudden he goes dark and then pops up again, and you realize, crap, he's 23. He could be on tour for another 10 years. And if he keeps this up, it's going to either get really good or it's going to go down again.
Yeah, it just I'm going to go back to what I just said, Philip. It is hard for players of that stature to maintain the physical and mental needs of what you're able to do to play at that peak level, which is not to say you can't, right? I mean, obviously, everybody points to Ferrer, everybody points to Schwartzman, right? Those are two guys who are just playing at the elite level. It is harder to do when you are that stature, because you do have to be physically, there has to be something special about you physically to maintain through multiple weeks where you have to play 4 matches in a week. The endurance capability is a big thing. And on top of it, the mental side that you're able to, you know, with Kozlov having to play at that mental, that very fine line.
Yeah.
It's just really much harder to do, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when you are more on the, if you will, diminutive side, 6 foot and under. Peter Polansky, by the way. Peter Polansky.
That he won the doubles tournament with?
Yep.
Thank you.
In Columbus.
Look, that was such a fast research. How'd you do that?
This is what I do for a living, Philip.
I'm an idiot. Thank you. To wrap up everything here, if we were to take, and I'm going to plug in my thing first. Hold on.
Oh, boy. If you're plugging in a thing, I don't know. I won't know if I want to know where that goes.
What do you mean by that?
If we were to pick out of the people we just said, because at the start of this video, we talked about, I mentioned a couple people went from playing challengers and main tour to just playing main tour, the ATP tour, because it looks like Nakashima's in there, Brooksby's in there, Korda's in there, McDonald, Giron, all those guys have kind of passed that line of playing just the ATP tour now.
Yeah.
Out of the people we just talked about, Eubanks, Kozlov, all of those guys, which one of you do you think next year will play or will have the ability to just play ATP tour level tournaments?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is, first up, I'm going to pull up the rankings and just go by U.S.
Also, the fact that Sam Querrey is still 108 in the world shocks me.
The fact that he played on the Legends Tour.
Yes, thank you.
It's weird to me.
It's weird.
It's very weird to me, but, you know, God bless him.
For fleeing Russia.
No comment. I think Cressy has the highest likelihood, because of the fact that he's at 112 right now and really nothing to defend for a good chunk of the year. He's the one that makes the most sense.
Yes.
My cat is currently trying to attack a squirrel that's outside.
I was about to ask, what are you looking at?
Yeah, she's currently dealing with. I think one person you didn't mention that I think is actually going to be the answer is JJ Wolf.
Oh.
Out of all those guys, in terms of the people who I think will be at the tour level by the middle of next year, I think it's going to be JJ Wolf. I put Cressy and Wolf at the highest likelihood.
Okay. But he's 174 right now, and he has to defend a lot at the end of the year, right?
Yeah, but he missed 9 months. So he's
using a PR, I guess.
He's right now. No, he's at 174. He's going to be. So he's going to have at the beginning of the year in January. He's going to play Columbus and Cleveland.
Okay.
Those are two tournaments. I know he's won Columbus. I'm pretty sure he's won Cleveland as well. I think he's going to jump to 140, 130 very, very quickly. And then I think because of the fact he has nothing to defend, I think he's the guy that I think will be, I firmly, because of how he plays and just his, again, much like Cressy, his belief in himself, I think he's going to be top 50 by the end of next year.
Wow.
So that's, if I had to pick one guy from this group, I'd put him right there. And I also wouldn't be surprised to see Michael Moe get to a point where he's battling to be about top 100 as well next year.
When did he crack 100? Was it last year or 2 years ago?
No, it was 2018 when he won Columbus and Tiburon in back-to-back weeks.
And cracked it, didn't he?
Yeah, and I want to say that was 2018.
Okay.
Because so those are the two guys that in my brain are two locks to be inside the top 100. I also think you're going to see a really, really big jump from Svajda next year.
Yes. He's been a name that has been on my radar a little bit. It's funny because I've seen him play at the junior level, but I've never seen him play on the highest level of where he could be. You know, our mutual friend Alex Gruskin is very high on the Svajda train. Is he?
He's
how high?
Extremely high.
Bet his house on it high, or
yes.
You've got to be.
No. And I he asked me about it one time on his podcast, and I looked at him and he said something along the lines of he's going to be top 100, very, very quickly, or top 10 in the future. And I had to just sit there and like shake my head, because I was just like, the last time I'd seen Svajda, he was like this beanpole of a guy, right? Like,
thank you.
There's nothing there. But then I've talked to a lot of people who I trust, who say that he has hand skills and the ability to redirect comfortably, like on par with like Kozlov is a guy that they mention a lot, just the ability to redirect with no problem and have that little bit of pop behind it.
Okay.
But probably has some growth to do to get there. So it's very polarized what people think of Zachary Svajda. Some people think he's capable of outlandish stuff, and some people think he's just going to be stuck around 200 for a long period of time, right? I think you're going to see him at least get to 200 and above next year, which will be about a 200 spot jump.
Do you think Emilio Nava will crack top 250?
Yeah, yes, he's at 321, so yes, he'll crack 250 this time.
Then 200 probably.
Yeah,
it's more likely.
I can say, having really only seen him just those 3 tournaments indoors, like there were multiple times where I just said, holy shit, at the raw power he had.
Yeah.
Like I was stunned by how raw and power it was. I don't know enough about his game, and I don't know that I saw enough in terms of understanding his point construction and what he wants to do yet. Which is more about me than it is on him. But yeah, he'll be, again, just raw talent wise. Yeah, sure. 250, 200, sure.
I also believe I saw him play Musetti at the US Open. And they went 4 sets. Nava actually won the first set 7-6 too. And the way he can hit a ball, and I think you're right in that sense, like the way he hit that was another level that you don't see that often. Correct. And it doesn't look like he's unassuming in terms of just how he looks. It's not imposing. Yeah. Probably 6'2"-ish, 6'3"-ish. He's a tall kid.
Lanky.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not like 6'6", right? It's not like just and not like bulky with like thick with 2 C's. I mean, it's just like a random looking kind of a dude, And so he's like, all of a sudden he's just like 120 with the forehand. It's like, oh my God. But yeah, I'd like to see what he does. I'd like to see him. I need to see him more on clay, which I know is his preferred surface.
Yes.
I kind of need to see that to kind of understand what he likes to do and how the whole picture comes about.
Gotcha. And I think last one, Jack Sock, always a great question to ask.
It is.
Thoughts?
I have some.
Do you care to share them, or do we have to like be a Patreon to like hear them?
No.
No.
I think I've said this before, so it's not like I'm speaking out of turn. There are very few people who would say to them, you have the capability of winning every single challenger tournament that you play at, but Jack is one of them. He is among the most talented players in terms of just raw talent that I've witnessed over the years that I've been broadcasting.
Yeah.
You see it when he plays at that ATP level. It's always been just about his motivation. And when he is motivated, he is bare minimum a seed at a Grand Slam. Yeah. That's your bare minimum for Jack with his motivation. It kind of goes back to what we talked about with Stefan Kozlov. It's the same thing with Jack. When he's at his best, he plays with an edge. He plays feisty and angry. It has always been for him getting to that level consistently. Yeah. And it's the same thing with Nick Kyrgios in that way, right? Like you kind of
they have it.
How do they have it? Jack can be there if he wants to be there. And that's I think he knows that. I think all of us know that. Yeah. If he wants to be there, he can be there because he is incredibly talented. And I really thought that Little Rock was going to be a complete turning point for him because he did not play his best and fought through 3-set matches, which he hadn't done very much at the challenger level. I thought that was going to be the turning point to him getting into the top 100 by the end of last year. So I'm a bit surprised he's not there yet. But that's a guy, it's entirely on him and finding that motivation that can get him to that next level.
It's just surprising to me that he has all this stardom. He plays Laver Cup. He gets all these wild cards, and I see yourself shaking your head, but I feel like there's something there that just he needs to prove himself. I feel like all these wild cards are just trying to sell tickets, and I feel like they still aren't.
That's a really tough question because I can say to you at the challengers, the interest in watching Jack was way higher than it was for anybody else back half of last year. I mean, so I can't really speak to the 250s or 500s necessarily, right?
Okay.
I can tell you when Jack Sock was playing at the challengers, people were there.
Okay.
People were there. They wanted to see Jack Sock because that's a name that you've seen on television a lot. Gotcha. And his ability to do some of those, some of the trick shots that he's able to do, it's special, man. It really is. So I think it's a tough one because, I've seen him have some absolute clunker performances when he's given a wild card and clearly in a second set of a match doesn't give a shit. And that's hard to come to grips with as well. Yeah. But I think if I'm a tournament promoter, I'm giving him a wild card too because I know it's something that can bring people out.
Okay. Awesome. Not what I thought you were going to say that, but okay. Cool.
Yeah, no, he's a special talent, man.
Yeah, he is.
He is.
I will say that.
As are you, and that's the important part.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Jason Kubler's not listening and watching this because of the fact that he's Australian and he doesn't give a shit about what we have to say. It's not a reflection on you.
Yeah, I think it is, though. I feel like...
Listen, you and I apparently have the same self-esteem issues then.
I'm going to have to tell my girlfriend that then. When she watches this, I'm going to have to tell her that you said thick with 3 C's. And that's going to be my tagline for Twitter too, and you know that.
I'm fine with that.
Mike, chatting with you is always so much fun, and it has so much fun energy to it. I'm so glad I got to meet your cats too, and see one almost jump out the window.
I know, and I mean, Cat has developed a little bit of following on social media, and I'm really
They have an account?
No, I haven't gone that far. I just can't bring myself to do that.
I feel like you're the type of I think you're, by the end of it, I think you will. I think next year people will ask for it.
I mean, we literally did save her from a sewer. I mean, it was kind of a big deal. I'm really happy. And they love each other now. It's just like, oh, it's a great story.
What? Oh my God. Why is that happening?
It's Halloween.
Why is that happening?
Right.
Everyone go check out Mike's Twitter, Mike C. Tennis on Twitter. His Twitch, also down in the description below. He does online poker and sometimes streams from challengers as well when he gets downtime.
Pre-game, post-game.
Pre-game, post-game. Did one with Chris Eubanks. That was a lot of fun to see. What else do I have to shout out? Oh, your podcast with Noah Rubin. Definitely check that out as well.
F that guy, you know?
Yeah, they don't like each other, but it's fun to listen to them somewhat get along. So
sometimes.
Fuck that. It doesn't matter. But thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Go show Mike some love, and I'll see you guys soon.
I guess I really don't know what Christmas is all about. Isn't there anyone who knows what Christmas is all about?